Hello there and welcome once again to the Mayor's Magazine. I'm Mick Cornett, the Mayor of Oklahoma City, and this is our program for November 2016. We're doing the show a little differently this month. We're going to stick with one theme. It's a situation that exists in cities across the country, but in Oklahoma City we're actually taking proactive steps to try and do something about it, and that is criminal justice reform. Now, it's a complicated issue, as you can imagine, and it involves every level of government, not just city government, so we're having to get cooperation with the other levels of government. But obviously, cities are involved, counties are involved, states are involved, and occasionally the federal government is involved. And so when you have a system as complex as this, the solutions are not going to be all that easy to resolve, and it's not going to happen quickly. But in this 30-minute program, we're going to try and address what Oklahoma City believes are the best steps forward toward taking positive steps in the criminal justice system and having a system that I think everybody believes is better for the citizens of Oklahoma City. And we'll start with my first guest today, and that is the Police Chief, Bill Citty. Welcome to the Mayor's Magazine.
Thank you, Mayor.
You've been on before, but I think always we were talking about one specific topic, and man, this is a broad one, but it's something you've lived with for decades now.
Yes.
So describe, I guess, the problem. If someone at home is thinking, I didn't know something was wrong with the criminal justice system, what's wrong with it?
Well, I mean, it really, what's brought about the really serious discussions with a lot of different shareholders, because there are a lot of different shareholders that make up the judicial system, obviously, whether it's municipality, state, like you said, federal. What really started with this, and I think everybody understands because it's been in the media or the news a lot, is just the overcrowding of the county jail. That's really what started this discussion. What do we do about the overcrowding? Then a group of individuals were put together. The chamber kind of sponsored the discussions and tried to bring together some stakeholders that are actually involved in the judicial system, whether it's police, the county, jail officials, the prosecutor, the district attorney's office is part of that, judges, whether it's municipal judges or district judges. It's a huge, like you said before, it's made up of a lot of moving parts, and I don't think people really realize how complex it is, which makes the solution even more complex.
A lot of times the individual's entry into the criminal justice system starts with the Oklahoma City Police Department. And we are sort of a tenant to the county jail. We don't have a city jail, and so we arrest people. We asked, generally the DA would press charges or there would be some sort of a municipal code violation. But if circumstances warrant, they are placed in the county jail. Now, the county jail's 25 to 30 years old. It was built for how many, and how many does it have? Well,
the jail itself was really only constructed for probably around 1800. I don't know exactly what the number is off the top of my head, but it wasn't built for at times having 2,600 people in the jail, individuals. You know, and in Oklahoma City, you're right. Oklahoma City, we're their largest client. The majority of the people that go into the county jail come from the Oklahoma City Police Department, from arrests and what the officers do out in the field.
And with jail overcrowding, I guess, there's two concepts. You can put fewer people into jail, you can let people out of jail more quickly, or you can try to get the system just to move along more efficiently, where something that's been taking, let's say, 10 or 50 days now takes 5 or 25 days. Is that generally what we're talking about?
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of reasons why people are in the jail and for the length of stay in that jail. And I think that the group that's put together, along with a contractor that's been hired by this group of individuals in the chamber to really try to evaluate why are people staying as long as they're staying in the jail? Why do we have this many people in jail, and for what reason?
Ultimately, is it going to change the way your officers act and how many people they interact with on the streets? In other words, are we going to get to a point where offenses that today are considered very serious are considered less serious, or perhaps not even worthy of an officer's time?
Right. Well, if somebody calls, we're still going to respond. We still have to deal with the problem. I think what we're looking at right now is, once we identify the problem, Does that problem need to go to jail? Are there resources to divert that problem to other areas in the community resources, social services, or there are things like that? It's kind of looking at, I don't want the public to think we're not going to still take custody of people that's broken into their car or maybe is suspicious in the neighborhood, because we want that to happen. We want to, though, figure out what's the best way within the judicial system to deal with that person. And I think what we're finding out and what we're trying to do is it's not always lockup. It's not always a jail. That's usually the most expensive proposition of any of the alternatives.
There's a couple of kind of categories here. There's substance abuse, and there might be a better way to handle substance abuse. The second category would be mental illness. If someone is suspected of portraying abnormally because of a mental illness, now jail might be where they wind up, just because we don't have the facilities or the priority of mental illness treatment in this city and in this country to deal adequately with the problem. So, how much is that a part of this equation?
Well, I mean, narcotics, illegal use of narcotics, drug addiction, alcoholism, mental health, in many ways drive a lot of crime, or not necessarily always crime, but a lot of problems within your community. I really try to not identify persons that are suffering from mental health as being criminals, because they're not. Most of the people we deal with on a daily basis with mental health issues are not criminals, but we still get called to those, and we still need to find some resolution. Jail is not that way to resolve that.
And one of the results of the inability to fund mental illness is that our county jail has become a mental health institution to a certain extent.
Right. We defer most of the calls that we get. Most people we deal with mental health don't actually go into the jail. And I'll just give you an example. As a police department last year, we took about 17,000 mental health calls. Out of that, we transported, that means a person needs to be taken out of that situation, about 7,000 times. Only 400 of those individuals went to jail. So that's a pretty good diversion program, and we work closely with the Department of Mental Health to try to find beds. The problem is there's not enough of those. There's not enough resources. There's not enough, after the fact treatment, something that we can prevent us from ever getting that call in the first place by trying to help the mentally ill or the addicted. Both of them are diseases, and addictions really falls within that same category.
Do you find that your officers arrest the same people over and over again?
It happens quite a bit. I mean, somebody suffering from mental health, it's a lot of it's repetitive. Addiction is the same way. It's just that a lot of these individuals have a hard time staying with the programs, and a lot of these programs don't have enough resources to follow up and be able to treat those individuals like it's needed.
We've been meeting as a group, and you've been part of the committee, as have I. And how do you think that's progressing, and where do you think we are in the process?
Well, I mean, with the company that they hired, Vera, has just excellent reputation, and they've worked very hard with all the stakeholders, with all of us, to try to determine exactly what the problem is. I mean, you can't start to solve the problem if you don't have it identified. And so Vera has done a really good job. We've seen a draft of their report after months and months of tireless research and looking into the issues. So they've drafted a report, and the draft looks really good as far as what the issue is. Then it's going to be incumbent upon us, yourself and other city leaders, to take that report and make some decisions on what our next step is in trying to correct some of the problems. And it's, we can do a lot with the municipality. We're already moving in that direction with some of the recommendations I think that Vera has made. But we're not the only entity, and getting all the entities to work together, because we work closely with the district attorney's office. The judges are a big part of that, and having resources and where to put individuals that we put into jail and they adjudicate. It's all one big, huge process, and it's all interconnected, but in many ways we don't communicate very well and work together to try to solve that problem.
All right. Chief City, thanks for coming on the Mayor's Magazine.
Thank you, Mayor.
Our look at criminal justice reform will continue. We'll have Cindy Richards from the city's legal department when we get back.
At Embark, we're not just stops on a map or collection of random people. We are a community connected.
Since I usually don't get off till around 11, having this late night route is really a stress reliever for me.
Our choices on where to live, work, learn, meet, and play grow with the connections we create. And with strong connections come economic opportunities and vibrant communities. Where public transit goes, community grows. Plan your journey at embarkok.com.
I'm Lee Criswell with Street Maintenance. Help us while we repair your city streets. Please slow down and be alert in all work zones.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Magazine. We are performing this show entirely on the subject of criminal justice reform. In the last segment, we met Bill Citty, the police chief, and he talked about some of the problems that he and his officers are facing. And in this segment, we're going to get more of a legal perspective from Cindy Richard. She is the Deputy Municipal Counselor. Welcome to the Mayor's Magazine.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, so where are you tackling this broad concept of criminal justice reform?
Well, I think everything we're doing and hoping to do can fall into three major categories. And kind of before I outline that, I think it's important to say that reforming the system, or in our case, improving the way we do business in our court, involves a whole lot of people. And we are very fortunate to have you, Mayor, and the council supporting our doing the right thing. In fact, I think Councilman Pete White has long advocated for a fair judicial system. And recently, Councilman Stonecipher, who's our newest member of the Judiciary Committee, summed it up by saying we want the city of Oklahoma City to be on the cutting edge of doing the right thing. So with that kind of charge in mind, we've looked through our entire system, and I think we stand in pretty good stead just with the procedures that we've had, but absolutely need to hone a few areas. But essentially it falls into three goals. Number one, and the most important, we don't want people in our jail because they're poor. So a huge amount of what we're doing is trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. That involves primarily the judges working with us on that. Our presiding judge, who you'll be talking to soon, has added 8 indigency hearing dockets a week just to find out people's financial status and what they can pay. We also are working with Chief City and the police department to determine, give another look at why should people go to jail? What kinds of charges should take them there, particularly on pretrial detention? We average about 5 days per defendant that goes there pretrial. And so we're trying to hone in why is that the case and how can we shorten that stay. So we're actually reviewing all the misdemeanor charges right now with Chief Ken McDonald to say, should officers actually arrest those people and take them to jail? Finally, we want, and this really involves the court administrator, our new court administrator is LaShawn Thompson, and we want to make sure that defendants understand the process. So communication is a huge issue. We're rewriting pamphlets that get handed out to defendants and trying to put it in terminology that anyone can understand. So those are the 3 goals.
Okay. Well, where are we in that process? Where do you start? Where do you take the first bite of the apple?
Well, we've started with the indigency hearings, which are key. That's a mandate of the United States Supreme Court. And getting people to come into court is a big issue. Don't be scared. Don't avoid coming to court. Come in and see us. We'll get you in front of a judge. We'll find out what your situation is, and we'll find out how we can handle the case that you have. Now, none of us at the courthouse can give a defendant legal advice. So we can describe the options to you, but you still have to choose the best option. But at least we can do our best to try to break it down where everyone will understand it. Also key to this is the public defender. And our public defenders have gotten very involved. They go see people that are over in the jail and try to figure out how to shorten that process. And we've done a little work with them recently to see if we can shorten things. Mm-hmm.
What's going to be the toughest aspect of all of this? You know, we talked about, the throughput. Do we put fewer people in? Do we shorten the stay? Where are you on all of that? How do we lessen the population at the jail?
I think that the work with Chief McDonald on looking at the misdemeanor charges, and of course what I'm speaking of is all misdemeanor violations of city code, will be a key in reducing the numbers that start off in jail. So that will be a huge key. I think another key is reduce the fear that people have of coming to court. Getting the word out is going to be maybe the hardest thing that we have to overcome, to let people know that you're safe, it'll be all right, come in and let's figure this problem out.
That we're not necessarily lining up against them when they walk in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that they'll have an advocate if possible.
Yes.
You obviously keep in touch with what other communities are doing, what other cities are doing. How are we doing? How is Oklahoma City doing on kind of, the idea of doing a more fair job in criminal justice?
Well, I just recently went to a national conference of municipal lawyers. There are currently 18 lawsuits in 11 different states about issues that kind of arise in the same sense that Ferguson arose, how people are being treated when they come to the municipal court. I actually, when the Ferguson report came out by the Department of Justice, went through that report. It's about 100 pages long. Probably about a fourth or less of that is about the municipal court in Ferguson. So I kind of did as much as I could, a side-by-side comparison. We actually stack up pretty well. And I think one of the key things for our city is that a very small amount of the fines that we bring in through municipal court, it's a very small amount that goes into our operating budget, around about 5%. Ferguson, I believe, was about 25%. So
your point is that it might be a more relevant funding stream or financial funding stream in some cities than it is in ours. Yeah.
That's right.
So we're not relying on it to pay the bills.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an idea that you might want to penalize someone for breaking the law, and there's another concept that you want to fund city government by people that break the law, and those are obviously two different things.
That's right, Mayor. And so I think we stack up pretty well. So we're just looking at fine-tuning things now. And fortunately, we have a presiding judge whose background is social work, juvenile public defense, before she ever became a judge. And so that's a fortunate thing for the city in that our presiding judge has a different perspective.
Right. And that's a good segue because we're going to hear from Judge James in the next segment. But Cindy, thank you for coming in. Cindy Richard is a Deputy Municipal Counselor for the City of Oklahoma City, and as you can see, she's dealing with a lot of aspects of criminal justice reform, as is the police department and our judicial system. And so we'll have Judge James in here next to talk about what we're doing on the legal side of criminal justice reform. Cindy, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll have more after this.
Hi guys, I'm Anas Chandler from Oklahoma City Thunder. We're here today in animal shelter. When I was a kid in Turkey, I have a lot of, I had cats, I have a lot of birds and fish, but I never, I had a dog before. Now I'm like thinking about adopting an animal. Please get involved with OKC Animal Welfare and get involved and adopt and volunteer like I am.
Down here. That dog has a thirsty look in his eye. Did you know that it's really not that hard to save water? Like here in the sink. Don't make me run too much. Could somebody shut me off? Now this is my kind of party. A full house. Let's roll. Hey, we're in a drought, which means I'm kind of a big deal. So save me. Really? Save me!
Welcome back to the Mayor's Magazine, and the woman running our court system for the City of Oklahoma City is Philippa James. Welcome to the Mayor's Show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, and you've been listening to the previous two segments from Chief City and Cindy Richard. And what are your thoughts on all of this? Because at some point, you see our officers out there doing this, you see our legal staff doing this, And many of these cases wind up in front of you and your colleagues over at the courthouse.
Correct.
So what do you think about the steps we're taking?
I think all the steps that we're taking are positive. What we really want people to know, to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Richards said, we want people to know that Oklahoma City Municipal Court is a user-friendly court. We're going to try to assist you. We want people to be responsible for their actions, but we don't want them to be so terrified that they won't come into our courthouse. For instance, if I get a ticket and I miss court like last month, we have a standing rule in our building. If you walk into our building on your own, you're not going to jail. People think that, they're afraid to come in the building because they think they're going to jail. They are not going to jail. We will help assist them to resolve the issue, whether if we give them another court date or if they get there in time enough where they can see a judge that day. But if they walk in that building on their own, they are not going to jail.
All right. Well, the Chief City kind of described the problem as, the first step in kind of the problem that was created was the overcrowding at the county jail. And I know that's, to a certain extent more of the judicial system on the county side, but you've got to have opinions about the size of that jail and that number of people that should be incarcerated. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think Chief City is right. It was originally built for a lot less people than what it houses now. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do in Oklahoma City Municipal Court is, right now we have a system in place, like if you get picked up like what we call one of our serious charges, like larceny or assault and battery. Well, if the police officer arrests you, you're going to go to jail, but you're going to get out of jail within 24 hours. And we call it an OR bond. So basically the person signs, like signing a contract, where they promise to appear in court. As long as they make every single court date and don't miss any court dates, there are not any problems. The majority of people we have over there on municipal charges are people who miss their court date. But even when they miss their court date, if they come into our building on their own, just walk in and say, hey, I have this warrant, can you tell me what I need to do to resolve it? We will tell them what they need to do to resolve it, and they are not going to jail. Years and years ago, before my time, before your time, before Cindy's time, before Chief City's time, people walked into the building to resolve it, they would go to jail. We changed that. So, that's like what Ms. Richard was saying, we need to kind of get the word out. We've changed the culture in Oklahoma City Municipal Court, but so if you walk into our building to resolve a warrant or resolve your issue, we're going to do everything we can to assist you.
So they're coming in to resolve something. We want to help them resolve
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the broader discussion of criminal justice reform and the idea of treating mental illness in a more humane manner, and if people are addicted to narcotics, trying to get them help with their addiction as opposed to treating them like a criminal who might have performed an armed robbery or something similar to that. Your perceptions of that a good step forward?
Yes, because I'm not trying to minimize what we do, but we are a misdemeanor court. So these are relatively small crimes in comparison to what they have in district court. However, we still want people to be accountable for their actions, but we're not trying to throw the book at everyone. And we do have a lot of mental health issues. I guess some places they call them quality of life issues. Trespassing and disorderly conduct. A lot of times, and we have a significant number of people that they kind of like rotate through our court system a lot, and they do have mental health issues. We had this one lady, she was always stealing stuff. Toothpaste, comb, just really insignificant stuff. But she had been through our courts so many times, it was ridiculous. So finally, I called the prosecutor, I called David Prater and say, hey, this lady here, she keeps coming through our system, and I was telling him what her issues were. So he said she has mental health issues. I said, I know she does. I said, but we can't help her. So he said, the next time she comes through, he said, call me. So I gave the information to Ms. Richards' office. So the next time she showed up on one of our, the police officer, we called David Prater, and he assisted us in getting her on the mental health docket in district court. Because which is what she really needed. And she was on meds. She admitted she was on meds, but it was just like, it's like she couldn't help it.
Yeah. This is a little bit off subject, but I'm wondering if you have opinions about it. is that people see people who don't seem to want to go to a homeless shelter. They would prefer to sleep on the streets, or they'd prefer to sleep in an alley somewhere, as opposed to going to some shelter that might provide them with higher levels of care. And then there's that issue: is that a crime? Has this person committed a crime? Somebody's begging for money out on an interstate highway. Is that a crime? And you know, society has all these different opinions on how to deal with that. And I'd love to see your perception, because you see it from the bench.
I can see both sides of the issue. As Ms. Richards said, that I did used to be a social worker, so I can see both sides of that. But we actually have a lot of people in our community that actually try to help the homeless people in mental health, like the Homeless Alliance. I think that's like a great place. Mm-hmm. I'm always referring people to the Homeless Alliance, because it's kind of like a one-stop shop. Whatever they need, they can get it. They can help them if they're a veteran, they can help them get their VA benefits. If they need food stamps, they can help them get the food stamps. If they need Social Security disability, they can help them, but they can't help them if they won't go there. They can't help them. They have the day shelter, so which means, I mean, they don't have a night, you know, people can't sleep there at night, but day shelter, people can come there all day. And one of the best things I like about it is, if you're looking for a loved one, you know, they give them those ID cards, and they can, I can give a message to my loved one. They won't tell me if they're there or not, but they'll say, hey, Philippa James is looking for you, and here's her phone number. So they'll put it in their little system, and that person can call me or not call me, but at least they'll let that person know that somebody's looking for them. But I think the Homeless Alliance is a great place in our community.
Well, you know, I think you described yourself as someone who used to be in social work. It seems to me like, to a certain extent, you're still doing it, just from a different position.
I am. I am.
Yeah, and how much, you know, I mean, you know, people might have this vision of the judge just determining how the case comes out, but I'm sensing you give some counseling advice to people along the way on how they can probably redirect their life or future actions to avoid coming back.
I try. Now, everybody doesn't always listen to me, but I tell them a lot of times, you're going to get my lecture whether you want to listen to hear it or not. So I do try and give my opinion, especially to younger folks.
Uh-huh.
I get more response from younger folks than I would maybe somebody my age.
Yeah.
But I try.
All right, we're running out of time here, but what would you like the citizens of Oklahoma City to know? I think we've hammered home the idea that we want the court system to be a place where they shouldn't be afraid to come in. Anything else out there that our citizens should know about the great work that you guys do over at the courthouse?
Well, if you have a financial obligation to the city of Oklahoma City, and you don't have the ability to make that financial obligation, come to our courthouse, and we will put you on the indigent docket, where a judge will determine if you are financially able to pay. If you are determined not to be financially able to pay, we will forgive the fine. You will still have the conviction, but we will forgive the fine.
All right. Well, a reminder, you know, to all that we're trying to do a better, more humane system, trying to create a more humane system here, and it's multifaceted. It requires you know, our police department to perhaps act differently. It requires our legal department to have, you know, help us draw up statutes and resolutions that can help, you know, guide the system more appropriately, and it requires our legal system to be more passionate, you know, about the human beings that are coming into our system.
I agree, because sometimes I think we have to just like talk to people. I found sometimes you just talk to people, sometimes you can figure out what's going on, and that even helps them.
All right. Philippa James is running the court system for the city of Oklahoma City, and you can see why we're in such good hands. That's going to do it for this special edition of the Mayor's Magazine to talk about criminal justice reform. And no doubt you will be hearing more about the changes we want to make to our criminal justice system in the months ahead. So please listen up, and if you have ideas, we'd love to hear about them. You can email me at mayor@okc.gov. That's going to do it for this edition of the Mayor's Magazine. I'll see you next month with another show.